Hi, my name is John. Welcome to another video in the series Care Repair and DTI gauges with my friend Bob. This week Bob's going to do all about finger gauges. So he's just arrived, we'll get him in and I'll hand it all over to Bob. How are you, Bob?
I'm coming. Nice to see you again, John.
How you doing, mate?
Alright.
There's your bench, get on with it.
Me bench. This week's short video is on finger DTIs. That's these ones with a little finger on the end. Right, this one's a Mercer. The ones what you go to see on the bench are all by another manufacturer. First of all, I've got to give a shout out to my #1 fan. It's Mr. Leighton John. He's actually my grandson, and he's over the moon that I'm on YouTube. So there you go, Leighton. You're famous like I am. So, be all and end all, these are the things I hate the most, because 9 times out of 10 they've been left in the machine and they get clattered. So we'll go from there. Is the finger DTIs, they have a probe on the end. I know that one's a screw, but that one's a probe. That one's got a probe. Now all on the bench, they're all made by the same manufacturer, except one. It's made by the same manufacturer, but it doesn't have that manufacturer's name on them. So there's one of them, as you would call, would be a lemon. But it's not, because it's made by the same company. Now, these are the ones I don't like the most, because 9 times out of 10 they've been left in the machine's been switched on and they've had a hard clatter. And 9 times out of 10 the bit what goes on the front is the bit what gets the hammer. Where the stylus goes, the stylus snaps off, or this whole end gets broke off, or whatever. So I haven't got a broken one that needs repairing to strip down to show you, but basically there's 2 types on the bench. There's first type's what I call a fixed head. That's this end here. It's fixed, screwed into the body. And there's these 2 on the other end which is pivoted. These end bits, they pivot up and down. Now I prefer these ones than the fixed ones, because they're much easier to set up in the mill or whatever you're working on. Now some people prefer the other ones, some people don't. Now they're all, these ones from this side, from the screwdriver down over, have a lever on the side. Now if you see, I'm going to move them out the way, which you need to move to determine which way the stylus moves on the end, and I'm going to show you that. These ones don't. They work backwards and forwards without moving any levers. So I'm going to move these ones out the way. Now this is the Frankenstein one. This is something I've made up just to show you. On the side it should have a lever on the side like this one has, but unfortunately it hasn't, so I've just glued this onto here. Now what this works on the other side, which when I turn it over you'll see, it's got a little spring. So if I turn it over, I've actually highlighted it with a black pen. It's got a little spring there going up and down. I'll bring it further up. As you move this lever, you can see the spring going backwards and forwards. Okay. Now what that spring works on is this little lever here. That's the stylus at the front, so obviously that goes to front. Now on the back, I don't know, John's camera can just say pick it up, there's a peg, and in that peg there's a hole, and that goes onto, a bit fiddly, so I'm working to camera, not the eyesight, how it is. Right. That spring goes into that little peg with a hole in, so when you move your lever, the opposite end goes up and down. Now on this end, which I'll show you on another DTI, there's a helix or a screw, which is that what moves the hand backwards and forwards. Now for the stylus to work one way, for example if I've got it up the top, the stylus, it's a bit on the end here, will work from back to front, that way. Right, this is the front up here, that's where the dial should go. Right, now if I turn that so the lever's pointed down over, it works from front to back, which is that way. Right? Now I'll get this one, and that's what it roughly looks like on the inside. It doesn't have a little lever because again all these the levers end up getting missing, but works the same way. There's the helix, a little screw thread in there, so when I move that there, that moves the helix, which in turn moves the hand on the front. I'm not going to show you the hand on the front yet. And then obviously where that pin is there, where the wobble should be for the spring, you turn it and it goes the opposite way around. Now as I say, I haven't got a complete one to take the bits. Now again, this one, it's the same make, it's just a bigger version. It still has where the spring would be, but it doesn't have a fixed head where the stylus goes. These ones here is what I call a fixed. The stylus fits on a pin, and it's on a ratchet, but it's fixed. These ones, the stylus fits into a holder, which is like on a centre pin, and 9 times out of 10 the stylus is snapped off and it's left this little thread in there. I'll put a bolt in there to tell you what I'm going to do. Right? And the way you usually attach these to whatever, they've got a dovetail on the body themselves. We've got one there, and they've got one on the front there, and you get a little clamp which attaches to the dovetail. Now the big ones, the ones I like, which have got a pivot, right, and you put that in your chuck or your collet and you pivot wherever you want it to go. And these don't have a lever, they're bi-directional, I call them. Doesn't matter which way you push, that works backwards and forwards. Now these are completely different on the inside to one of these. These have a helix. These still have a helix. They still have a helix in, but it doesn't have. It has another bar in to act as like a double acting lever instead of having that there. I was saying that I'll take the cover on this one off. Excuse me fingers. Get a right fitting screwdriver. As I say, these are all broken ones, but I just keep them for spare parts wherever possible. Because as I say, that they can be an utter nightmare when they're being clattered. Now, get screwed up the inside. You can see the lever floating around there. It's floating around. I've just left it in there. There's a pivot point there, and the other one's missing on the other side. And that lever, which goes against the helix, it's hard to get there, which is that bit there, pivots in between them two pivots there. So if I get it out, you can see two pivots, and it's got two pins on the other side. Now there should be another lever which goes into there, which I haven't got, and that's also on two pivots which work against them two pins to give you your forward and backward motion. Now when you lubricate these ones, they still have the fine spring which is there, the tension spring, but they don't have a lever. That spring's pre-fitted, right? They are a jeweled movement. They've both got jewels in. All of them's got jewels in. They've got a jewel in the bottom pivot, and they'll have a jewel in the top pivot. And just the same, pardon me, with the big DTIs, in this little silver cup here, there's a hairspring. Just the same as the big DTIs,
you have to put a pre-tension on that. Now, on what I call the double acting lever ones, which is these, it's not so critical as it is against the single acting lever ones. On these, if you've got that spring which sits in that little cup there, if you've got it too tight, it'll work one way, but on the other way it won't work, because it's trying to work against itself. And vice versa, if you haven't got it tight enough, it'll work one way, but the other way it won't work at all, because there's no spring, there's nothing to hold it there. What I get asked an awful lot is, how do you remove this bit? Now, again, what I would try to tend to do was remove the lens first, then remove the bezel, because to remove the hand, the face is underneath the hand, underneath the lens I should say, but it's attached to the bezel just by friction fit, and if you pull it off, it can actually damage the hand, but if you're very, very careful you should be able to get away with it. But how these come off, it's fairly simple, is you need a fairly broad screwdriver. Now, don't yank at it, don't go ape shit, or sorry for the expression, but you go gently underneath the bezel and the main body, and just lever it up a bit, then turn it round, and lever it up a bit, turn it round, and you just keep doing that, and you'll see, hope John's camera can pick it up, the bezel drops off, right? Because that's just a push fit. That silver ring is just a push fit onto that black thing. Now, all these, the ones on the bench, they're all the same make, but from now on in, they're all exactly the same. There's a jewel in the top of there, and there's a jewel, it's under a cap on that one, but there's a jewel in the bottom of there. They all have two screws what holds what I call the top plate onto the main body. I'll just move that. I'm not bothered about being, because these are just spare ones. They're not hypercritical, but I still don't want to lose any screws or anything. And as John says, when there's a camera involved, anything can go wrong. I just don't want to tip it out, but I will. There we go. Oh. I didn't want that to happen, but there we go. Get that off. Get that off. Get that back into there. Right. Now, pretty difficult. There's the helix. They all have the same helix. And there's the hairspring. Right? And that's held in. There's no glue, there's nothing. There's a little hole. There's a little hole in there, and the spring goes through the hole, then folded back on itself, which is then held in place by the main body. Of the DTI, just like that. Now again, just like the big DTIs, you need to put tension into that spring. And when I come to put them back together, is I'll put a little dab, just like you did with the bigger ones, a little dab of oil on that bottom pivot, what's in there, a jewel pivot. Because I've stretched it, taken it off, I just like, not too much, obviously they've been cleaned, I'll give them a little, I call that a wavy washer, a spring loaded washer, and I'll put a little dab of oil on there, and I'll put that back on, and there's the jewel, the little red bit in the middle. I'm trying to get it better, turn it round. I'll put a little dab of oil on there. Not now, when I put it back together. So all that just goes on top. It is fiddly, it is awkward. You line them 2 screws up. Still in shot, move it over a bit. Screw the screw up. I'll only put 1 screw in. Save time. Right, now you know if you're in right, because it should turn a foot like the others. If it doesn't turn on its own, if that doesn't turn, then it's not in right. Right? Now we know it's not in right because it's not sitting right. Complicated. Normally when I put these back together, I don't have the arm in place. That's this arm here. I'll leave that out. Now when I say these screws is like the other ones, they are small. Right, so that's back in its pivots, does what it says on the tin, backwards and forwards. Now how I pre-tension these ones, no doubt when they do them at the factory they'll have some sort of an indicator or whatever. Now in the watch and clock industry there's a product called Rhodasail or something different, or Rhodicol I think they call it. It's their version of blow tack. But I'll just use blow tack. Is wind the spring up. I'm winding against the thing there, but you'd wind it up and use a dab or a piece of blow tack to hold the hand in place. Then put the arm and that back on, which is this, all this governs here. Then work the lever with the stylus involved and see how the needle, obviously once you've running ahead, you need to put this back in to lock it onto the spiral. Then once it's locked onto the spiral, you can take the blow tack off and you can put the stylus back on and you can work it to see how well it responds to being moved backwards and forwards with the lever, which is this fella here. And you might have to take the hand off, take it down a wind the handle down half a turn or add a half a turn till you get the stylus responding in correspondence with the dial evenly, not one end heavier than the other end, as I call it. And that's it. And you would do the same on the double acting ones, one of these. You would exactly the same. What's in there, it's only got an extra lever is, but you would wind the spring up, put it all back together again, take the blow tack off and see how the needle responds to the movement of the stylus. You might have to tension up a bit more, you might not have to, you might have hit it right on first time. Now the other thing I want to touch on is repairing of the stylus. Now that's a 10BA. If anybody wants to know what thread that is, that's 10BA. I know what they are because I got them off my friend Peter. Now what tends to happen, have you got a pencil or a pen there, John, please? And imagine this is, I was going to do a drawing before I came. This is the stylus, this end. It has an undercut, then you have the threads. Stylus, undercut, threads. This is the threaded bit here. 9 times out of 10 it snaps there when it's in the main body, when the body's there. Now the bit that it screws into is hardened, and the stylus itself is hardened. Now, there's several ways that I can think of how to get it out, but there's only two ways that I do it. First one is you get your multi-tool, whatever make it is, and you use them little carbon cutting discs. And what I do is put a slot, not in line with the pivot, opposite the pivot up and down. Then you're able to get in with a little screwdriver to screw it out. The other alternative from that is to drill it out. Now I have drilled them out. What you've got to do is you've got to remove that altogether, take it all to bits, it's only a pivot, and heat it up red hot, then let it cool down slowly, and that makes the pin, what's left of the threaded bit, soft, and also makes this bit soft. So it allows you to drill, and I have done this. On Mad Modders I posted a load of pictures of doing it, and with a little homemade easy out, if you want to call it, I've screwed the remainder out and then replaced them. Then I've rehardened this bit. Now I make my own styluses. Now the styluses I make is like this, what I call a teardrop shape. Now they're only made out of, I've given that game over that, I've turned it upside down. I only make them out of stainless steel welding rod. I think it's 3.2 gauge I use. But these are steel. The stainless is hard enough, it will wear, but once you get the knack of making them, you can make them. But what I do is I drill and tap them 10 BA, and I just put it so you don't have a shoulder, you just have the thread screwed right up. Now, believe it or not, that's an original one what's got the shoulder on. The ones I do, they don't have a shoulder. Right? You just got the threaded rod straight in there. Yes, admittedly, because I've used a piece of stainless steel welding rod, this end here tends to be a little bit thicker than the original diameter of the stylus, but it does nothing. And people say, oh well, your styluses need to be such and such a length. Untrue. That stylus it comes with that. I've had these which has come with 3 different sizes of styluses, and basically all it is, the longer the stylus is, you're making the movement more and more sensitive. That's it. And again, the lenses themselves, if it's badly scratched, you would clean it in exactly the same way as I've done the others. Now, some of you might have already, well, I've just given the game away really, but some of you might know just by the looking of the shape of them what make they are. They're all verdict. Right? This is John's big yellow verdict one. This is my spare one, big yellow verdict one. It's a good movement, but I can't buy them. I can't buy them bits to repair that. I can make the lenses to repair it, but I can't buy the springs. That's a verdict. That's a verdict. They're a verdict. The odd one out is this one. Right? That one's made by, or supposedly made by, Newall, but it isn't made by Newall. It's actually a verdict, but it's just got their branded name on. This is what I say about DTIs. There's a lot of DTIs out there, such as batteries. I've worked on loads and loads of batteries, but it doesn't have the battery name on it. It has another company's name on it. There's a guy in New Zealand sent us one, and it was for that BMC on it, but it wasn't BMC. It was a battery movement, and he was over the moon when he got it back. But that's it on finger DTIs. Hope you enjoyed that bit.
Right, Bob, thanks very much, that was great. Interesting how a finger DTI works. The helix, I hadn't really how they worked, very interesting. Once again, if anybody wants to get in touch with Bob, you do so through me. That's my email. Send me an email and I'll pass Bob details on to you. Anyway, once again, thanks for watching.